In the dark days of World War II, when nations were locked in a desperate struggle for survival, the United States government explored countless innovative and sometimes bizarre strategies to gain an edge over their enemies. From atomic bombs to covert operations, nothing seemed too far-fetched. But among these plans, one stands out as particularly strange and even a little terrifying. This is the story of the Bat Bomb Project, an idea that nearly set the skies ablaze with an army of incendiary bats. Part 1. The Doctor. Our story begins with an unlikely hero, Dr. Lytle S. Adams, a Pennsylvania dentist. Now, you might wonder how a dentist could come up with a military weapon, but Adams was no ordinary dentist. He was an inventor, a man with an unyielding curiosity, and, perhaps most importantly, a friend of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. It was this connection that would help catapult his strange idea into the halls of the U.S. government. In December 1941, shortly after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Adams was on vacation at Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. As he gazed upon the millions of bats that lived there, a peculiar thought crossed his mind. What if these bats could be turned into weapons? It wasn't just idle speculation. Adams knew that bats were plentiful, capable of carrying small loads, and most importantly, they could navigate in the dark. This last trait was crucial for nighttime operations, especially in a war where darkness often brought cover and chaos. Dr. Adams quickly drafted a proposal for a new type of weapon, a bat bomb. The concept was simple, yet brilliant in its audacity. Tiny incendiary devices would be attached to bats, which would then be released over Japanese cities. Bats would roost in buildings, and the timed incendiaries would ignite, causing widespread fires. In theory, this would create chaos and devastation with minimal human casualties. It was a bold plan, one that reflected the desperation and creativity of a world at war. Part 2. The government's interest. Adams' proposal made its way to the White House, where it caught the attention of the military. The U.S. was desperate for new ways to strike back at Japan, and the idea, as outlandish as it seemed, had potential. The project was given the green light, and soon it had a name, Project X-Ray. The military's interest wasn't merely a flight of fancy. They saw real strategic value in Adams' idea. Japan's cities were largely constructed of wood and paper, making them highly flammable. A well-timed bat bomb attack could wreak havoc, potentially more so than conventional bombs. And so the U.S. Army, along with a team of scientists and engineers, began developing the bat bomb. They were fully aware of the challenges ahead, but believed the potential rewards justified the risks. Convincing the higher-ups wasn't an easy task. There were many skeptics, and the project faced significant hurdles in terms of funding and resources. Yet the shadow of Pearl Harbor loomed large, and any idea that could potentially strike a blow against the enemy was worth exploring. The war had changed the rules, and unconventional thinking was not only accepted, but encouraged. Part 3. The science behind the bat bomb. Now, turning bats into tiny flying incendiary devices was no simple task. First, the team needed a species that could carry the weight of the incendiary devices and survive the conditions of flight. They chose the Mexican free-tailed bat, a species known for its strength, speed, and abundance. These bats were small but mighty, capable of carrying the tiny incendiary devices without being overly burdened. The bombs themselves were small, lightweight incendiary devices designed by chemical engineer Louis Fieser, the man behind the invention of napalm. Each device weighed just under an ounce and contained a small timer that would ignite after a delay, allowing the bats time to roost. These timers were crucial. They needed to be precise enough to ensure the bats could find shelter before the flames were set loose. The challenge was to create a device that was both light enough for the bats to carry and reliable enough to function in the chaotic environment of war. The deployment mechanism was equally ingenious. Bats were placed in small bomb-shaped canisters, which were then cooled to induce a state of hibernation. This was a critical step, as it allowed the bats to remain dormant during the flight, conserving their energy for when they were released. These canisters would be dropped from planes, and as they descended, they would deploy a parachute. The gradual warming during the descent would wake the bats, allowing them to fly off and find shelter in buildings below. It was a delicate balance of timing, temperature, and altitude, factors that would determine the success or failure of the mission. Part 4. Testing and unexpected outcomes. With the science in place, testing began in earnest. The first tests were conducted in New Mexico, using mock-ups of Japanese cities. The results were mixed. While the bats did manage to fly and roost in buildings, controlling them proved difficult. In one instance, a group of bats roosted under a fuel tank, setting the test facility itself on fire. Needless to say, the project was not without its setbacks. These incidents highlighted the unpredictability of working with live animals, especially in a military context. context. Despite these challenges, the military pressed on, convinced the potential benefits outweighed the risks. As testing continued, the team ironed out many of the issues, and the bat bomb began to show promise. Yet, as the project moved forward, another weapon was being developed, one that would ultimately overshadow the bat bomb. The stakes were high, and time was running out. The war was escalating, and the demand for effective weapons grew ever more urgent. The project's successes were encouraging, but they were also tempered by the realization that this was a weapon of last resort. The war had taken a brutal toll on all sides, and the development of such a weapon underscored the desperation of the times. As the project moved forward, it became clear that even if successful, the bat bomb might only be used in the most dire of circumstances. Part 5. The End of Project X-Ray. While the bat bomb was being tested, the Manhattan Project was making rapid progress. The development of the atomic bomb promised a level of destruction that far exceeded anything the bat bomb could achieve. As resources and attention shifted to this new superweapon, Project X-Ray began to lose momentum. The bat bomb, once seen as a potential game changer, now seemed almost quaint in comparison to the raw power of the atomic bomb. By 1944, Project X-Ray was in its final stages of testing, but the results were inconclusive. With the atomic bomb nearing completion, the decision was made to shelve the bat bomb. In August 1945, the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, bringing the war in the Pacific to a swift and devastating end. Project X-Ray, like many other experimental weapons, was quietly forgotten. It was a project that had shown promise, but ultimately, it was overshadowed by the terrifying new reality of nuclear warfare. The end of the war marked a new era in warfare, one where the destructive power of a single bomb could change the course of history. The bat bomb, for all its ingenuity, was a relic of a different time when even the strangest ideas were explored in the desperate bid for survival. Part 6. Legacy. Though it never saw combat, the Bat Bomb Project remains a fascinating chapter in the history of warfare. It represents the incredible lengths to which nations will go in times of war, exploring every possible avenue, no matter how strange or unconventional. It's a testament to human creativity, and at the same time, a reminder of the horrors of war, the way it can warp even the most peaceful creatures into instruments of destruction. The bats, once mere inhabitants of a remote cave, were transformed into potential weapons of mass destruction. Thank you for joining us on this journey into one of the strangest chapters of World War II. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And let us know in the comments below, what other bizarre or forgotten stories from history would you like us to explore next? Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, history is full of surprises.